Hello everyone, this is Josh from LMN, and I want to welcome you to another live LMN Speaker Series webinar. At LMN, our focus has always been to help you grow your landscape business. That's why we created the LMN Speaker Series to bring you business best practices from some of North America's leading experts. This is a forum for dynamic speakers to share their insights on a wide range of topics through virtual events like this one. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping for all of our attendees. Feel free to ask any questions that you might have throughout the presentation via the questions tool panel on your webinar. We will address these questions at the end of Frank's presentation. And depending on the number of questions that come through, we may not be able to answer them all live, but this webinar will be recorded and sent out to all attendees. And Frank has agreed to answer all the questions afterwards and include them in the recording once we distribute it to the attendants. With that said, let's focus on today's event. Today we have Frank Bourque, President of Frank Bourque Consulting, and Frank's presentation will provide all of our attendees with a new perspective and tangible examples to assist in developing team and culture within any design build organization. Over to you, Frank.
Well, thank you so much, Josh, and welcome everyone. Good afternoon. And so today my agenda is mostly focused on this presentation on how to develop teams and culture in design build organizations. So my focus is really on how to attract top talent and helping teams grow and build culture that's basically going to help them attract and retain top talent, so great employees. So just to kind of go over, if this is a topic that you're interested in, you might also be interested in a webinar that Mark Bradley, the CEO of LMN, last month on the LMN hiring system. So he really provided some great tools and forms that can be used and that are available through LMN. But he basically talked about advertising, career opportunities, how he, in his company, screened people, did some pre-interviews, how he did his job offers and employment contracts, and really how he helped employees with the onboarding procedure and process. So in my presentation, it's kind of goes hand in hand with this. It's a great continuance to or follow up to what he had talked about, because it really goes a little bit deeper into the culture part of it. And so my main area of focus is going to be on how to attract, where to find, and how to retain top talent. This is really what my focus will be on. But just to tell you a little bit about myself, my beginnings and where I am now. Basically, I started over 22 years ago in the landscape construction industry, working for other companies, grew into a foreman position while studying in university, and did that as a summer job. Then started my own business, kind of focused on trying to start on my own. Basically grew a business with several dozens employees and partner up with some other key partners to grow an even bigger company. Eventually moved out of the area and became full-time as a consultant, which is I do now. I basically help businesses grow more efficient and profitable. I also do a lot of speaking at different events. I write in magazines such as Hardscape magazine and horticultural magazines as well. And I'm the founder and proud host of the Landscape and Hardscape Business Success Summit, which is an event that I put out this year, actually last month, because I am really committed to this industry, helping people really help them grow their business. And the whole point of this webinar today is really to help you do that. And where do you start? Well, you can start by attracting top talent. And this is exactly what the main focus will be on today. So how do we do that? Well, let's start with a great book that basically I read from Stephen Covey was the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And his second habit, there were 7 habits, but the second one was to begin with the end in mind. So how do you start? Well, if you want to think where you want to go, where you want to be in a few years, what does it look like for you? Are you growing a small team, a large team? Where do you plan on being? What's your ideal scenario? And also you have to think about what's your ideal employee for you, for your business, for where you want to grow and go as a business. So if you want to grow a larger team or maybe a more skilled team, you have to think about, okay, you want to attract the best. Well, you have to basically perform like the best to attract the best, right? So becoming an ideal employer to attract your ideal employees. So here are some of the top strengths of ideal employers. Ideal employers have competitive salaries. They offer a challenging and interesting type of work. They offer opportunities for promotion. They offer a positive culture, strong executive leadership. These are at the top 5. And as you can see, there's many other ideal strengths that people are looking for in their employers. But here are the top ones that research shows us that is very important for candidates out there looking for jobs, looking for better jobs. So if you want to have success in this area, you really have to think about performing at a very high level in these key areas. When I meet people or business owners who are looking to do this, within just a few hours of meeting them, meeting their team, I can really assess the situation and the potential for success based on a few key factors. Oftentimes, ideal employers and very efficient and profitable companies have certain things in place which really help them be that ideal employer that people look for. First, they have systems and processes in place. This basically helps their staff, their employees and managers to put things in place that helps everyone function and go in the same direction. Basically, things in place that they can use on a daily basis that makes the job easier. They don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. They have systems in place for hiring. They have systems in place for training people. They have ways of doing things so that everyone can learn the same way of doing it, so it becomes simpler over time. They basically also focus on team building and motivating their team, keeping them motivated, and also providing them training to make them feel empowered to do their jobs right. They also provide the right tools and habits. But ultimately, what they do very, very well is they adapt to change. So on a daily basis, they really take a look at their situation, what they need to improve, what they need to change, what they need to implement. And they really also assess how they're going to do it. So they build strategies for all these different areas that they want to improve. So who is your ideal candidate? If you're thinking about ideal top talent, well, you have to target job seekers as you would target your clients. You have to think about it this way. If you're a hardscape company, design build company, looking for high-end projects, let's take that as an example. You're looking for the type of client that will have a need for this type of work. So you might promote on your website this type of work that you do, with some maybe pool installations and much larger installations for your hardscapes and landscapes, and have some nice pictures of this, very professional pictures of this, so that they know that that's what you do and you do it well. Basically, you have to tell your story to your clients for them to understand what you do and for them to believe that you're a credible company that can come in and do that for them. Well, the same goes for your ideal candidates or your top talent that you're trying to attract. On the outside, they have to understand what kind of company you are, what you believe in, what you offer, and you have to appear credible. So you just can't say that you're a good company anymore. You have to show it to people in many different ways, which I want to help you. If you're on this webinar today, I want to help you build a marketing strategy to get to these people, to be able to target these job seekers or candidates that you're trying to attract to your company. So you have to kind of focus on employer branding to attract your top talent. You have to brand yourself as a company, as a top company. And it doesn't matter if you're a small company. And oftentimes, the belief out there is that you need to be a big company to attract the top talent. And I can tell you that it's, I know some very small companies that attract the top talent. What they do well is that they basically perform as a top performing company to attract top talent. As long as you have these key elements in place, you can brand yourself as a top employer and as an ideal employer. So here are a few steps. But before, you have to keep in mind there's two types of candidates out there, and you will not reach them the same way. So you have active and passive candidates. Active candidates would be the people looking for a job actively, like such on the job bank or looking at some job ads and applying for jobs actively. Then you have the passive candidates. The passive candidates are the people who are not necessarily actively seeking a new job, but they may be interested in the opportunity for growth or for change in new opportunities if they present themselves. But basically, it would have to be better than what they have right now. If you keep this in mind, then you can promote yourself in a way that, or market yourself in a way that is attractive to these people. So active candidates go on websites like Indeed to find jobs. I just pulled one off for an example here where you see the typical job ads and people can apply directly from there. They see the talents and qualifications required, some of the perks of working for that business, preferred professional accomplishments if required, and then they talk a little bit about their company. So this kind of provides a general overview of the job. Then you can also use platforms like Facebook. Here's a client and friend of mine, Leisure Landscapes out of from Montreal. So he posted a job for a landscape technician that he needed, did that right from Facebook, and basically he's able to get people to apply directly from there to a web page just by clicking on the Apply Now button on the screen. So two different ways, and both can bring you some great candidates. The only thing with active candidates is that if people who do not have a job, there's usually a reason why they don't have a job. So you're hoping to attract great people who are looking for your type of setting for a job, but knowing if you only seek people who are actively looking for a job or who do not have employment, then you might be setting yourself up for failure when you're coming or you're looking to employ higher up positions in your leadership team, because usually you want to attract the best of the best who are probably most likely already working for somebody else. What your goal should be is getting out there so that you become on their radar, and on basically top of mind as often as you can, so that at one point, if they're not satisfied in their job and they're not evolving or growing as much as they want, then they might see you as an opportunity. You want to be ready for when they are ready to move on, and you want to be the next pick. So for these people, the passive candidates, you have to make sure that you're ready on certain platforms, that you are branding yourself in a way that is attractive to this type of candidate, which is usually a leader or a management position. You can find them or through LinkedIn Recruiter. Facebook, you want to make sure that your page is very welcoming. This is a great example. Gelderman Landscape Services, a friend of mine, Nathan Elder, owns the company, and you can see that they put a lot of emphasis on really making people feel welcome and understanding what they do and doing it well. This red carpet picture really kind of makes it inviting for people going on this page. And if you scroll on their page, you'll see very quickly that you'll understand that they're great at showing company culture. They talk about their training. They show pictures of the staff working, great things happening in the company, people having fun, different things, how they do things, how they work, what type of work they do. If you take a look at their website, it's very well done. It's a great example of how people, if you get people's attention through social media, you can send them to your website and offer information such as, what kind of opportunities are there, showing the benefits of working for a company like yours, what you offer. For instance, here, join our team. Basically, you can see the job openings. You can there's a video that talks about basically the company culture, how it is to work there, deciding on which type of career path you want. Is it on the corporate level? Is it on the landscape level, the maintenance, the snow, or maybe irrigation? Where is your focus? Where do you want to go as an employee? So basically, just by visiting their website, you get a very high level experience of what a career feels like there, and you see the opportunity. And that's ultimately what passive candidates are looking for. The A players are looking for opportunity. They're looking for autonomy. They want to master their skill. They want to know that they have an opportunity to grow with that company and to become the best. Because if you are the best or looking to be the best, you're looking to grow all the time. And then purpose, basically knowing that what you do has a purpose, that you're serving people in the way that you want to do it. You have a mission, a vision, such as a company you're working for. You want to have something that is clear. So you want to make sure that your company vision and mission are clear so that people understand what you want, where you're going, so that they can relate to you. If they are A players, top talent, they most likely will relate to you if you are the same type of company. So here's a few things you can do to help your employer branding to attract top talent. First, you should know your EVP. Your EVP is your employer value proposition. So there's basically two key components that you have to keep in mind: your employment benefits and your key values. It's going to be a mix of both. People are going to be looking at both. They're going to be assessing both, because it's not just about money, or it's not just about your team culture and how positive it is. It's kind of a combination. So people will look at your management team. They want to know how you lead your team, how you treat your people, how you communicate with them, what you value, what type of setting, working hours, compensation do you offer? Is it competitive? Is it maybe above average? All these things matter to people, especially top talent. Now, key values. The key people are looking, or the best, they're looking for companies who have a vision. They have a plan for growth. Growing can mean a lot of things. Growing can mean maybe a company that's looking to improve all the time. It doesn't mean that your company wants to grow unlimitedly to basically having a lot of people. Perhaps your company is just looking to grow to a certain level. Maybe it's a smaller company, between 15 to 30 employees and you want to stay there. You just want to grow more profitable, efficient. You want to offer more benefits to your employees, and you're just looking to become the best in your size. And that's great, that's fine. You can even be smaller than that or a much larger company than that. Ultimately, what you have to focus on is make sure that you do have some of these in place, or that you think of all of these to make sure that you offer a combination that's unique to you. And that should be the main thing you keep in mind, is you don't need to compete against everybody else. You should be different, and it's okay to be different. It's just offering getting out there and showing people what you have to offer in a very honest way. And which brings me to my next point, which is dare to be authentic. Basically, organizational structure, showing your structure may be what you consider as an imperfection, may actually be benefits for job seekers that would really fit your team. For instance, maybe somebody's looking for flexible advancements, promotion based on performance, right? Some people are looking to move up quickly. They're natural leaders. They want to do that. And then you may have some more structured people that have a mindset of really just basically following a path and with promotional schedules. And, this is a more traditional way of thinking, in my opinion, because nowadays, with the new generation coming in, the millennials, we're looking at being flexible is very important. And we'll be talking about that some more in a few minutes. But your organization may have a lot of benefits to offer, and you're not trying to attract everyone. You are trying to attract people who can relate to you, people who will be happy with you. And ideally, if that turns off some people, well, then great, because then you're attracting more of who you really want and need for your company. Third thing you can do is highlight the most important aspects. Keep them in mind. These factors that you see on the screen have the biggest influence on job seekers' decision to apply with you. So do you have them covered? Basically, if you would be to look at your company from the outside, let's say you were a candidate looking to for a job, looking at your company, would you want to work for your own team, or where would you assess your team presently on these factors? Because these are very important. Let's go through the list. Team culture and climate. How does it feel to work within the company? Is it a positive culture? Are people communicating well? Are they engaging well? Are they working together as a team? Responsibility and empowerment. Do people take on new responsibility? Are they getting the training that they need to feel empowered to do more and to grow with the company and to consistently grow? So are people seeking more responsibility? Are they taking responsibility? These are very important to millennials. They want the responsibility, but they want the training, they want the support, they want the assistance from management to grow into it. And when they do feel empowered, they do feel motivated to do more. Working schedule. What kind of working schedule do you offer? Are you flexible? Are you very rigid? Again, this is another topic that is sometimes difficult to work with, especially being in a seasonal type of business. We are very limited in terms of time and productivity, and we need to be very efficient in what we do. So, but the more efficient you are, the more flexible I believe you're able to be, especially if you have the right systems in place. So do you have that within your company? Learning opportunities. Do you offer learning opportunities, or are you too busy to be able to offer those opportunities to your employees? Is there a variety of activities within the company, or is it just all about work? And fifth, job versus career opportunities. Is it a job that you're offering, or is it a career? Because a job can feel very temporary. It can be, the job is more for someone who's just seeking the financial side of it, versus the career is someone's looking for something long term with purpose, where he can stay, where he can grow, where it feels right to be with a team and growing together. So what do you offer? Is it a job or is it a career? And do people coming in feel that way? Let's talk a little bit about the millennials, generation coming in. So right now they almost represent 50% of the workforce. By 2025, they're going to represent almost 75%. So, which means we really have to adapt if we haven't yet thought about how we were going to get through, or how we're able to work with millennials, because it's a different type of generation. They're not motivated by the same things than previous generations. So I want to talk about this and put a little bit of focus so that we can know how different generations work differently, what attracts one to, and what you need to implement to attract the millennials and to get them motivated to work within your organization. So according to the Ideal Employer report, which focused on millennials, the top 5 factors of importance for millennials, there was challenging, interesting work, a value on top of the list, positive culture, opportunities for promotion, strength of the firm, and competitive salary, which is probably not surprising. Although if a company does not keep that in mind when they're hiring, when they're talking to their new employees, when they're looking at their career path, it's something that they can really leverage if they take a look at these numbers, how important it is to this generation. So millennials are demanding more flexibility in the workplace, and really you need to ensure that your company culture reflects that. You also have to remember that it's not just about what works for employees, it's what works for the team. And that's the kind of culture that you really need to build within your company to be able to motivate your millennials. Very often, millennials are looking for a flexible workplace, but work arrangements often fail when becoming too flexible, not because it's not a good idea to do it, it's more or less because they're not implementing systems to have effective communication, because it's all about maintaining effective communication. The more flexibility you have within a company, the more the people need to be effective at what they do. So one way to make millennials feel part of the team and to help them on board with the team, to have onboarding programs and training such as this one, for instance, giving you an example of what the associations out there are doing to kind of help with workforce development. If you take a look at what the Interlocking Concrete Pavement Institute and the National Concrete Masonry Associations are doing, they're implementing basically boot type programs for new employees getting in with basically almost no knowledge of our industry. Well, then they get them ready with such information as tools and terminology, safety information, and everything else that goes along with landscape construction. And then, so at the next step after, they can become a certified installer. Then they can become a specialist. And finally, if they're looking to grow even more at a management level, they can go up and learn more about how to manage a contracting business. So offering this kind of career path is very important, especially for people coming in. They want to feel like it's going to lead to somewhere. So keep these onboarding programs and training in mind. The same for programs and trainings such as offered by Greenius. A great way to make it easy and consistent for your team to learn about safety and to make sure that they are learning and putting things in place to be safe at work, to be more efficient also. Offering training to your millennials, to your new employees, basically for them to feel more knowledgeable and feeling empowered to have the knowledge they need to do the work well and to be efficient at it. Basically just helps them to grow and feel more empowered within your company. These are two examples of, one is Landscape Ontario Congress. Here I'm teaching on the Hardscape Live stage, and the other one is Hardscape North America. Two great examples of where we offer all the new information on what's up and coming, the new technology, the new tools, the new ways of building and in the landscape construction. Fourth thing you can do is target and adjust your job ads. You have to think about who is your audience. If your audience is more on the junior side, so the millennial side, you have to think about what's important to them. So transactional attributes is more important to the millennial. So for instance, training possibilities and employee benefits, relational attributes such as social support, colleagues, atmosphere of the work, atmosphere of just the team in general is very important to them. For the more senior level, maybe generation of older employees, they will value most likely more ideological attributes such as the company mission, the vision. For them, it's important to know that the company is legitimate. It has credibility for them to onboard with the company. It's very important for them to know that the company is the real deal. Making it personal. Another thing you can do to have a big impact to basically attract top talent is use your team to basically provide testimonials, quotes. You can do video interviews. Let job seekers meet your current employees. You can do that in different ways. You can do that live, such as having career days and office tours. But you can also do this just by shooting company culture videos and posting them online, or having them on your website, having them part of a sponsored ad series where it's leading people from social media to click on the link that brings them to your website that talks about you hiring. They get to see a little bit about how it works within your company, what you're doing as a company, and where you're going. Next, you can use different channels. Basically, you can be open in many different ways. You can let job seekers ask the questions about your company online, do live broadcasts, live chats, show how it is within your company on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whichever social platform you use. Instagram being probably the one that's growing the fastest at this point, but choosing one and doing it well. And when you are on social media, it's really giving a good picture of who you really are. That's what the most important part is. It doesn't have to be perfect, but really just being human, right? Basically using social media with as a real person. And so doing some live stuff is really beneficial for that reason. People like to see live builds and updates, and to see how it is within the company, to get a feel of what it's really like to hear the owner or to hear some of the employees, what their experience like. You can also be an expert, show your credibility by offering videos. It could be how-to videos on YouTube. It could be just how you do business. For example, we work with a company and they did this webinar. They invited people to sign up for a webinar for their company, and so they would talk about what they offer their company, get a chance to meet some of the employees. They showed their whole operation within the business and the shop and some of the trucks, some of the sites. This was all part of a webinar they offered. They recorded it and they reuse it to show people what it's like, the experience working at their company. So there's many different ways, many different channels that you can use as a company. You can also make employees be the brand advocates, right? Through all these social media outlets, your team can speak about their experience. You want it to feel authentic. You want it to really come from them. If it's staged, then it will feel that way. So it really has to come from employees that do believe in your mission and your vision and your ways of doing things. And it has to be employees that actually do and implement that kind of culture. But ultimately, if you have referral programs on board, for instance, some companies pay a certain amount to employees who find new recruits. After a few months, they provide, let's say after 6 months, they provide another portion of that amount. So it could start at a couple $100. After 6 months, if the new employee stays, then the person who found that employee gets another few $100. And then at the end, if the employee is still there after a year and still successful and staying with the team, then they would receive a third bonus. So it could be divided in different bonuses, ranging from just a few $100 to, I know companies that go over $1,000 to find new great employees. So it's paid as a bonus to people helping to promote and find new employees. So these are all different ways of going about using different channels to attract more of the top talent. Also, like I mentioned before, you have to show, not just tell people how great you are. It's all about how you will be able to tell your story. In my opinion, one of the best ways to do this is definitely by doing video. Video is becoming one of the most used outlets. Research demonstrates that candidates will trust companies 3 times more if the employer provides a full impression of working at the company. So, and job posts get 36% more applications for those jobs if they're accompanied by a recruiting video. So recruiting video is becoming part of just the hiring process nowadays, and we have to consider it if we're looking to grow and attract the best people. Also, video marketing seems the key because 80% of all internet traffic will basically be video by 2020 or more. So it's growing exponentially, right? So consider these things: employer branding videos, employer branding interviews, tutorials, social media videos, office tours, 360 video. So really showing your whole operation. That could be a culture video, for instance, and video job ads. Be different than the norm, what's out there right now. A job post is fine, a job ad, but imagine a combination of job ads and job ad videos, how that would add to your brand as an employer and as your company. I want to give you a great example. Company highlight. I want to highlight this company specifically. They're probably one of the best that I know on company culture, and they use culture for growing their team. They're well over 75, I believe 80 employees at their peak season. And Atlas Outdoor basically went from struggle to profitable, 5 million in revenue per year in 5 years. How did they do it? Well, basically they adapted they adapted, to change through culture. If I give you a couple examples, here's Tom Elliott on your left. He works as a manager, and you have Sam Gamble on the right. When Sam decided to grow his business, he knew that culture was going to be important. But Sam is an excellent leader. He's one of those guys that just naturally lead teams and understand what making people feel part of something, what he needs to do. So basically, the first thing you see when you go into Atlas Outdoor is this sign on the left on the gate, which says, through this gate walks the best lawn and landscape team in the business, the Atlas team. And the second sign that you see is at the entrance of the business, which says, welcome to the Atlas Outdoor, or welcome to Atlas Outdoor, a destination company. So right away, the first two things that your employees see is basically signs saying you're part of something special. And if you're here, it's because you are special. Almost makes you feel like you're part of a family. Again, here's Sam Gamble on the left. That's him shaking hands with a new employee who's going through training as part of the onboarding program. They're training their new employees before they go on site. So they're working on doing base prep for interlock. And I asked Sam, do you do this all the time? He says, Frank, one of the things that I put the most effort on is trying to acknowledge people. Every time I walk 10 feet of my team, anyone on the team, I try to acknowledge them. And so, Sam did not know this employee very well at the time because he had just started his job, but really made an effort to reach out to him and made it a priority. Other signs on the property, such as having employee of the month parking. Just his communication with his team. Every morning he sends an email, the one on the left, just a quick snapshot of the type of email he sends, a leadership message of inspiration and motivation to give them a few tips and tricks on either examples or articles he's found, just quick stuff that they can use in their business. Then you see an example of a Facebook post that he did for the team, just thanking them for how hard they work, and basically always ending his messages with love, right? Time to crush it. So motivation, and then love you all, and sand and brandy. So him and his wife are really geared in this way, where they always try to provide the positive and give the team an outlook on what they need to do to grow, but they do it in a very positive and creative way. Here's another example of how they do. They have an annual banquet every year. So they have people over, their employees and their families. They hand out awards, and I mean not cheap awards. They're very high-end type awards. But what I find special about that is people getting the awards is seeing their faces when they go up front. They're not necessarily looking at their peers, they're looking at their family members, which is different than being acknowledged at work, because when you're being acknowledged in front of your family, it really adds to the whole experience. So I think Sam as a leader has understood that there's many ways to acknowledge people, to acknowledge them in front of their peers, to acknowledge them just on a day-to-day basis, and to acknowledge them in front of their families. Very, very important. And people value that very much. So here's the team, they take time to just spend time together. It's not all about work, and they make sure to find time for that. That's a great example. Another team that I want to highlight is Varsity Landscaping and Grounds up in Virginia. Another great example of just a company that really focuses on finding talent based on their values. They're very organized, they're very clean, they're fun, they try to do it in a way which is exciting, and they find clever ways of getting their message across, such as the sign on their trucks, right? If you're awesome, you should work here, now hiring. So all these little things that they do have, they have an impact and people see it. And the more you're able to showcase your company and to show what you're doing, such as this company, Jonathan Robert Landscape and Design up in Ottawa in Canada, the same thing for them. They really, what they're great at, actually, I would have to say, what amazed me the most is the gentleman on your left, Scott. He's an excellent leader. And what he's been great at doing is really planning. His productivity, his efficiency is through the roof, but he uses tools like LMN and the 4 o'clock 4. And what's so great about the 4 o'clock 4 in this case is just that he uses it as a tool to motivate his team, and he's better able to plan for the next day with just 4 questions. What? Just knowing what his goals are, his priorities for the next day, what he needs to get completed for today, what's slowing him down, his obstacles, and also taking a look what he needs for the next day, some information, materials, equipment, labor, just better planning overall. And he does that every day for the next day, which is great. Another great thing that he does that really helps motivate his team and attract more people who want to work for guys like him is he implements systems to know his productivity rates, to know his efficiency. So he's able to really build a culture of efficiency by knowing his numbers. He's able to track his numbers. He's able to take it all in with tools like LMN to know where his wastes are. So he knows how to grow, he knows what to work on, and he needs to know what he needs to focus on for better habits. So that actually motivates his team because they actually know that they're doing better because he measures and tracks everything. So another great example of a great culture, using the right tools, having access to the right tools, doing the numbers to purchase the right tools for the company. Very, very important. So overall, there's probably change ahead like there is every year. And if you're looking to grow as a company, you have to think about what is important, what you need next for your company. If you feel that you may be stuck, then it might be time for you to assess your current mindset to see if you need to change something in your business. You need to reflect also on how you've handled past changes. What's been your response? Do you take responsibility for it? And how can you adopt positive attitude, right? Change all starts with people on top. So if we want anyone to grow, to become better, we need to be the people who are leading our team in that direction. We need to be the example. We need to be the mentor. And so holding yourself accountable for adapting new changes is it's critical. Every time I meet with business owners, I know within the first few hours, my potential for success with them based on their willingness to change, their willingness to work with their team, their willingness to implement systems and processes. So if you're looking to build a strategic plan for finding more employees, retaining employees, and motivating them, then you have to look at this as a whole and to look at your culture, look at what's part of your company. So really consider using marketing and company culture to find top talent. If you do not have a good company culture, then know that this is probably one of the main things that you need to focus on to be able to be attractive to anyone who's looking to find great employment long term. You can find people, it's one thing to attract people, but to retain them as employees on a long-term basis is a different story. So you need to have the culture in place and the systems in place to be able to keep them. So make sure that you're thinking about both sides of the story. And these are some of the outlets that we've talked about, Indeed, LinkedIn Recruiter, Facebook, Instagram, to promote your company culture, to show what you're about, to show your story, to tell your story for people to understand who you are, what you do, how you do it, what kind of work you do, and your employees, how happy are they, what do they like about your opportunity, your job, the job that you offer. Also connect with schools and colleges, be present in your community, knowing teachers and making them your friends, and really offer them value by offering opportunities for their students. Come in and do a presentation, especially colleges, horticultural courses, and they're always looking for companies to participate and to be active. So if you're on top of mind for all these students and they get to know you on an earlier on, then you have definitely an advantage, especially if they relate to you later on when they're looking for a job. Career fairs and expos, just being out there and showing people that you take hiring seriously, and you don't take hiring seriously just once a year. You do it all the time. You want to be top of mind. You want people to understand what you do, how you do it, and you want people to think about your company whenever they're thinking about making a change, maybe in their career. And other things you can do: LinkedIn groups, Facebook groups, joining them, offering them value, also getting them to know who you are as a company, and then making sure that your website has a section for people who are interested in learning more about your company, learning about your company culture, making sure that it's all the opportunities are there and it's clear, precise, they understand your culture also. So I want anyone interested in learning more, who may be going through these challenges, if you're looking for, if you have questions and you want to reach out, please do. I'm always open to having a conversation. You can do so by email at frank@frankbourque.com or by phone, and we can schedule a time to get together to discuss your company and what you're going through. And if there's any questions, please feel free, Josh, to give me some of the questions. If there's any, it'd be a great time for me to spend a few more minutes on this topic of attracting top talent.
Yeah, absolutely, Frank. On behalf of LMN and today's attendees, I'd like to thank you for your presentation and providing our viewers with some clearer tactics and approaches to developing their teams and their culture within the organization. As you just mentioned there, we do have about 5 or so minutes left here, so we can pose some questions to you. We had some come throughout the presentation, so I'll address those first. And in the meantime, if anybody else has any additional questions, feel free to post them now. And as mentioned before, if we don't have enough time to answer them now, I will ensure that Frank receives them, and he's also agreed to answer these questions afterwards and send them over with his presentation. One question we had here come throughout the presentation, Frank, is does this information you're providing vary for large versus small organizations? If so, how can we apply it to a smaller company?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think the small businesses often look at the information provided and ask that question, does that relate to my company, even though I only have a few employees? And you know what, it does apply to any size company. What you have to keep in mind, or what anyone has to keep in mind as a business owner, is that no matter if you're leading one person or 100 people, the goal is the same. You want them to love what they're doing. You want them to feel that they feel understood, they feel that they're growing as part of the company, and that you're offering what they need. So it really all comes down to communicating well what you have to offer, managing expectations, and offering them what they really want, and knowing what they want. So sometimes we're recruiting people all the time without really checking with them what they're looking for in that opportunity. So the better you are, I think, as a business owner to manage the expectation right from the onboarding process, even just from the hiring process, part of the hiring process. The more they get to see who you are, what you do, the better you are in telling the story of your company, what you believe in, and open, being an open book on that level. I think the more you're going to be able to attract and keep those top people, because they join for the right reasons and they stay for the right reasons. But ultimately, it all comes back to, do you really have the right company culture? And are you working on always improving your company culture? Are people buying into what you have? Also looking at sometimes smaller companies have a hard time getting rid of negative people who are really ruining the experience for everyone else, because help is hard to find. Sometimes we hold on to to people who are negative too long, and which actually the damage might be done already, or not. I wouldn't say irreparable, but it's going to be a challenge. So we have to take action when we feel that the culture is being affected. Culture is something positive culture is something that we should protect, that we should continuously always work on. And I think no matter if you're a small company or a large company, you need good culture. You need a good balance, a good work balance environment. And one of the best ways of doing that is encouraging people to be positive, to communicate in a positive manner, to work efficiently, to join in the systems and processes that you implement. And the more you're able to track and monitor what you do, you'll be able to motivate your team, because you're actually gonna know your numbers. You're gonna know where you're going in business, and people want to know that you know where you're going. So hope that answers the question.
Great, thank you for that, Frank. And I'm going to pose one more question to you here before closing. And I think this may piggyback actually off of your last answer. But question came in here and said, what do you think is the most important or the first factor that we should consider when we want to improve the team culture as owners here?
I would say that the first thing you want to consider when wanting to improve team culture is take a look at the strengths and the weaknesses of your business. Ask yourself the question, and that's one of the exercises that I do with pretty much every company that I meet with, is we do a SWOT analysis. So we look at the strengths, the weaknesses of the company. Then we take a look at the stuff more on the outside. So the opportunities maybe that are out there, and also maybe the threats that we need to consider that may impact the company. So taking into account all of these will help you make a better assessment of the company culture. And then after you've kind of asked yourself and asked your team what their thoughts are on the company culture, you really have to take a moment to reflect on where you want it to go, and to see if you need to make any big changes. And it kind of goes back to my previous answer, where you might have to make some important decisions. So you might have to really consider who's on board, who's not on board, and how you're able to motivate and get people in the same direction, inspired in the same direction. So really taking a step back and doing an analysis of where you are strength wise and weakness wise to improve, I think is the place to start, to really just get on the right track.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much for that, Frank. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you one last time for taking the time out of your day for this insightful presentation, and as well as our audience for joining us today. Also want to encourage all of today's attendees to check out our upcoming lineup for the remainder of our speaker series by visiting our events page to see our entire lineup. In closing, thanks again, Frank, and our attendees for taking the time out of your day. And everybody, I hope you have a wonderful Monday.